look at differences which we have had with Islam. Yes, there are differences. Excuse me, can I have some? Things that have happened between Islam and Christianity. And the Muslim-Christian Federation International is struggling towards those commonalities. And we need your prayers, and we need your support. I want to thank you all, and especially our leader, BENAZEER for being here with us. She is the daughter of a great leader of that country. She carries in her the blood of a man who will never be forgotten in Pakistan. People who were even born after the death of Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who have never seen his face, who have never heard him in a public address. I have heard him in a public address. वो भी ये कहते हैं जी भुट्टो. There is something charismatic about the father of this lady, and I'm sure she will carry that thing with her for the salvation of Pakistan and its people.
Joseph Francis Sahab, Kadir Sahab, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Mr. Joseph Francis and the organizers of the International Peace and Religion Seminar for the invitation to meet with all of you this evening here at the Kundal restaurant. Today's discussion is well timed. Of September 11th, the controversial Iraq War, the events of Afghanistan, the suicide bombing in Pakistan, the global multinational terrorist organization of Al-Qaeda, and the use of the human body as a weapon inflicting destruction makes us both potential weapons and potential targets. Violence dressed in religious symbols masks historical, social, and economic issues, simplifying ideologies. To unmask the religious face of terror, we need to separate the terrorists from the underlying causes of discontent. We have seen throughout history that although religion came as a message of peace, its symbols were sometimes hijacked by those who wished to use it in the promotion of certain political goals. The Spanish Inquisition is one example where religion was used as a cover for the promotion of political aims. Madrasas founded during the Zia dictatorship taught war to Afghans and contributed to the warriors fighting in the name of Islam in Afghanistan. These warriors were raised to defeat the Soviets in Afghanistan, but they were given a religious symbolism. In India, the recent resurgence of the Hindutva ideology has changed the secular nature of that country to redefine nationhood in terms of religious symbolism. And the Zionist ideology has led Israel to justify violence to protect and hold the territory it controls. The anti-Zionist movement has unified Islamic militancy. The splinters of the Afghan war have reorganized and joined Middle East militarism. The challenge in addressing the issues of peace is to separate the terrorists from the issues they adopt to gain a wider political audience. Of course, violence in all its forms must be denounced. I would like to see Western countries understand that the anger of the militants is directed equally towards their own government. No democracy in the world has militants spilling over into its society. But we see in every dictatorship the rise of militancy. This is especially the case in my country of Pakistan, where militarism is equally directed at the state as it is towards the international community. In the search of peace within Pakistan and peace in the larger world community, I see two pillars. The first pillar is the pillar of interfaith dialogue. The second is of promoting democracy. Both these pillars are intertwined. Democracy promotes safe debate. Dictatorship silences dissent. The attack on the Twin Towers jettisoned us into the age of terrorism. Our generation is caught in a war triggered by militants driven or using the symbols of religious extremism. Suicide bombings and acts of terror can bring a clash of civilizations that disrupt the world. I have hope in you, the supporters of interfaith dialogue. I have hope in all of you who are gathered here today. I believe that each one of you can contribute to stop the coming destruction by building tolerance and the values of accommodation. It is a multicultural, multi-ethnic society where each person is respected regardless of race, religion or gender that can truly lead us onto the path of peace, progress and prosperity. I have hope in democracy with its values of pluralism. Democracy permits a multi-ethnic and multicultural society, a society where races, religions and genders coexist peacefully. When terrorists strike at women, at children, and innocent worshippers in masjids and churches, they do a disservice to Islam. It grieves me when I hear people killed in the name of religion. I was brought up to believe that Jews, Christians, and Muslims are Ahle Kitab. That is people who receive messages from God through His prophets. I was brought up to believe that God sent tens of thousands of prophets to spread His message through the ages amongst humanity. We are all God's creatures, and it is to God that we will all ultimately return. Extremist groups are rising in all the key civilizations. There are extremists in the Muslim world, in India, in America. They spew hatred, be it against Muslims or Jews or Christians. The extremists are united in hate, in intolerance, and in sparking religious wars where they believe they can prosper. I want to use this occasion to call upon the youth of each of these civilizations to reject the message of hate and embrace the message of peace. The biggest blessing of God is the blessing of peace. Woe to the land caught in war, in fratricide, and in bloodshed. The end of the Cold War has seen much shedding of blood in the name of religion. We saw it, you and I, when Yugoslavia broke down, and in the heart of Europe there was bloodletting and a civil war. And we keep seeing it today like helpless spectators. But I do not believe that we are helpless spectators. Each one of us is an agent of change. I have hope in humanity, in our elders, and in our youngsters, that they will reject the victim mentality. It is by dictating the agenda of understanding, as you have chosen to do today through this interfaith seminar, that we can build a better world. There is much that binds us in the Judeo-Christian Muslim heritage. Abraham or Ibrahim is our common father. He built the holiest place of the Muslims, known as the Kaaba, the house of God in Saudi Arabia. According to the Muslim holy book in Surah Baqarah, those who believe in the Quran and those who follow the Jewish scriptures and the Christians and the Sabians and who believe in Allah and the last day and work for righteousness shall have their reward with their Lord. Of them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. As in Judaism and Christianity, Islam says, do not commit adultery, do not cheat, do not kill your children for fear of poverty, do not lie, do not spy, do not speak ill of anyone, do not drink alcohol or gamble, or hate and envy each other. Irrespective of our faith, we may distinguish between those who spread hatred and violence in the name of religion and those of us who would live respecting the right to freedom in religious worship. It worries me that Pakistan, the second largest Muslim country, is under a military dictatorship. Each country with a military power, including Indonesia, Philippines, and Pakistan, has a problem with terrorism and with militancy. I believe that terrorism and extremism go hand in hand with dictatorship. It is through universal freedom, including the freedom to elect one's own government, to change one's own government, that true stability can come in Pakistan and the larger world community. I see little stability in Pakistan today, although I'm often told that in the short term, a dictator is supported for reasons of stability. There is little stability in Quetta, or Karachi, or Lahore, or Islamabad, or anywhere else. Innocent people are killed, and the regime caught up in a power struggle. We are sitting on a volcano. The involvement of the armed forces in first raising militants under one dictator and subsequently seeking to crush them under another dictator has culminated in attacks on the armed forces themselves. The Army Chief is helpless to protect himself. Military officers in Ghana are taken hostage. 638 policemen were killed in Karachi since terrorists were released by the Musharraf regime in November 2002. These incidents are a few examples of a coming chaos unless order is restored. And for order to be restored, it is essential that the army return to the barracks. A professional armed forces under an elected government enjoys prestige, for it is not controversial. Despite the violence in the disputed state of Jammu and Kashmir, India is much admired for its independent judiciary, its independent election commission, its professional armed forces, and for its smooth transition from one government to another. It saddens me, as I'm sure it saddens all of you, that in the case of Pakistan, we are labeled a country of fools and of militants and of violence. And it need not be so if we unite with one voice to fight for the restoration of the Constitution as it existed in September 1999 or in July 1977, and the holding of fair elections under the Pakistan Human Rights Commission. A democratic and political government respecting human rights is the best guarantee of interfaith understanding, of brotherhood and harmony, the very building blocks of peace, progress, and prosperity. We can counter the forces of terrorism, of religious intolerance, by maintaining our commitment to the principles that defined us, the principles of racial, gender, and religious equality, the principles of political pluralism and tolerance, and the principle of peaceful change through democracy. And I believe we do need to address the contentious issues which our society has shied away from and to which the bishop drew our attention. I believe that if we remain committed to the values of freedom, to the values of tolerance, and to the values of justice, and most of all, to the value of peaceful change, we shall, in the end, prevail. Just as in Christianity, Judaism, and other religions, we Muslims must also always be on guard for those who will manipulate the message of religion for their own narrow political ends. This is a time of death for the Muslim community. We Muslims see ourselves largely as a peace-loving people. The effects of September 11th has led to our being viewed in certain quarters as violent, intolerable, and capable of frenzied killing of innocents. In return, we now feel that we are the receiving end of world bias and prejudice. In this context, this interfaith dialogue is all the more important for redressing the balance. I thank the sponsors for holding this seminar. I thank you for inviting me to attend it. And I thank all of you for attending it, for it shows your commitment, your individual commitment to tolerance and understanding. I am convinced that together we will beat the forces of terrorism and extremism, because each one of you and each individual is an agent of change. Thank you very much.
Kasha?